Good morning, good morning, good morning. It's me, Ryan. Unfortunately, there was no morning blast this morning because Michael Brown is at the dentist's. He's not having a sex change as I led people to believe. So it's me and Helen with today's political blast. I will wait for Helen before I do the legals because she might not believe I've done them, to be quite frank. So let's give her a minute to check in and log in. Let me just put an alert out to say that this is live. Dum dum dum. All right, let's type this up. Where is Ms. Thomas? There she is. Right, invite co-host, send co-host invite. There we go. Come on down, Ms. Thomas. And it I can barely spell this morning. Connecting, speaker, co-host, muted. There she is.
Hello.
Hello. How are you?
Hello. I'm all right. Very cold. How are you?
Oh, freezing, right? Big
Yeah,
shout
I'm
out to
having.
Richard. I'm guessing he's.
Yeah.
I'm hoping he's wearing his thermals today. No comment.
Yeah. He's just making. He's just made me a cup of tea, and he's now having his
Oh,
own cup
bless
of tea.
him.
There you
He's
go.
he really is the best.
Ah, he is. Yeah.
Um,
That made him laugh.
don't tell him I've said it. Oh shit,
Now
he
he's
can hear
heard it
me.
already. It's gone. It's
Oh
done.
no, oh no. Right, let me just quickly
Ruin the
read the
day now.
legals.
Yeah. Go on.
Yeah, right. That's you finished. Nothing discussed on this basis session constitutes trading or investment advice or infers any kind of endorsement by PIQ Global Limited, Trading PIQ or PIQ, or indeed its host and affiliates, which is of course Helen Thomas from Blonde Money and myself, Ryan Paisley. Yeah. So apologies for not
Hello.
being around last week. It was a combination of not feeling great and also a bit late back from Lisbon from the Web Summit.
Yes.
Flip.
Enjoyed your LinkedIn pictures. Looked like you had a great
Thank
time.
you. It was very good. It was very productive, actually. I was kind of a bit apprehensive because I do hate trade shows and all stuff like
Oh,
that.
I know.
But
I know.
but what was it called? Press in the flesh or whatever it was. But it was needed to be done. You know, we are entering. Well, we've just entered a seed funding round. If anyone's got any
Woo.
checkbooks out there, that are open. But no, it was very good. Thank you. But I've missed our call. It's been 2 weeks now, so must be
Gosh, a
plenty
lot.
to chat
Feels
about.
like 20 years has passed in the last two
Well,
weeks.
could I
What?
could I could I start off with a little stat for you?
Yep,
Right.
go for it.
So obviously now we've no longer got the betting markets to look at for
Oh,
Trump's
yes.
position. So I did think I did a little bit of prep for today, unlike
Yeah.
me. So would you like to guess? Well, I think it's quite obvious that the Tories are favourite for the next election, although
Oh, I'm liking this
Betfair,
already. Go on.
yeah, liking this.
Yeah.
So Betfair have got the next election market open.
Yeah.
Shrewdly, it appears that they aren't committing to when that next election will be, which I think is very wise. But Tories are on 2.38. This is decimal odds, obviously, so just over,
Mm.
sorry, just under 50%. Labour 2.56. So Tories edging them in front, and I think possibly a little bit of a shock is Reform is only like 5-1, basically in old money. Now
No,
I
is
don't
that
know
sorry?
where.
Was that that's to win the next election?
Yes.
Yeah. Hmm.
And I think it's quite interesting that Reform are kind of 5-1 because obviously, we all know that Labour's had an absolute howler of a start. Um,
Mm.
and I'm going to kind of link this in a bit of a segue to uh, Elon Musk this morning. Well, I believe
Hmm.
it was this morning. I read it this morning, put it that way. Um, basically saying, where was it? Hang on. Basically saying that none of the established parties, oh, Twitter searches on the blink again. None of the
Oh, it's fine.
basically the established parties are going to get hammered at the next election. Now we know
Does he mean in
Farage.
all? Is that for UK specifically?
Yes, sorry, yeah,
Established.
sorry,
Yeah.
UK. So
Yeah.
we know obviously
Interesting.
Farage and Trump are pretty tight. We also now
Mm.
it's very apparent that Musk and Trump are pretty tight. So does
Hmm.
this mean that
Mm.
by the connections that potentially for I know I'm kind of adding up to one and one
No,
and getting
you're
about
not.
25. Oh, okay, that's good.
You're on the
Because you're
right
the
track.
adult in the room. So when you tell me this is very good. So potentially, and I know it's a long way away, but we could potentially see Musk endorsing Farage. I
Absolutely, I'm
don't think
sure.
I don't think that's a million miles away.
No, not at all. I mean, Farage was at Mar-a-Lago, on the
Oh, of
night
course
of
he.
the
Yeah,
election.
forgot about that. Yeah.
So, and we know, yeah, we you see constantly on Elon Musk's account how where he's photographed, who he's with. He's with Javier Milei. All these. Do you find it quite amusing about Javier Milei? But like, wasn't like generally the idea that this, although he was a bit crazy, he was going to get some amazing stuff done. And oh look, there was that video of him chainsawing off government departments. Now he suddenly has got rid of government departments, and
I
now it's
yeah,
like brilliant, well done.
I
But
got to be honest, hat well and truly doffed him because as we've said previously, it's not about who you want to vote for. You can vote.
yeah,
Me
we
and
don't
Helen
care.
really we don't give a shit who you vote for, right? Honestly, it's more power to you. But I think what we can all agree is everyone is against the bollocks that politicians talk. So look, vote for whoever you want, and if they do what they say they're going to do, fair play to them, and that's exactly what Milei's doing. Um,
Yes. But it's
I
interesting,
think
isn't it, though, that I think the business community felt quite positive about Malay, but there's been quite a lot of.
is it
Been,
Malay because I
oh,
keep
did I
saying
actually?
Milei.
Oh, well, I did GCSE Spanish. I don't know if that really
Oh well, look,
qualifies
I
me.
can barely speak English, so we're following your lead on this one.
Well, that in any case that he was considered quite often you do get this in emerging markets where you get a leader and the the commentariat say yes, great, they're being revolutionary, that's exactly what's needed, and then somebody similar may come into
That's it.
you
They
know
get the big
a
old, they
developed
get the big
market,
old
and then everyone panics.
president. They get the presidential chain wrapped around their neck, and then they're like, oh, do you know what? I'm just gonna same as before, but now I'm
Yeah.
in charge.
Oh, that yeah. But in any case, the thing about well, okay, there's lots going on here. Number one thing that is important that you've already tapped into is Elon Musk matters. Now, again,
Yes,
you may have whatever view
like
you
it or
think about
not.
him, whatever you think about him. Um, he is. Well, the thing is, billionaires to that degree are always powerful. It's just that
Yeah,
he's the
right.
one. He's the one that bought the town square in terms of buying this platform, which
Yeah.
we're talking,
Oh yeah.
and decided that he wanted to get involved. I mean, he hasn't necessarily always been a supporter of Trump, but decided now that he is interested. And so first of all, Musk tweets matter. He won't call them tweets anymore, does he? But anyway,
Well,
they
we will.
matter. But therefore, what he is saying about the UK also does matter,
Yeah.
and matters in terms of the interactions between countries. What has happened with Trump? So it's quite good in a way that we haven't spoken for a couple of weeks, because in a way the dust has kind of settled after
Yeah.
everyone's shock, which, as you know, to you and me wasn't as
Wasn't
much of
that
a
much.
shock. But anyway, apparently it's a
Oh,
real
do you
shock.
know what?
However, people perceive it.
I have taken quite a lot of pride in being able to say my friend Helen basically nailed the election. So
Ah, there you
yeah,
go. There you
I
go.
have told, even like people have got no interest in hearing it, but I'm telling them anyway.
No, no one ever does, do they? It's strange, but there we go. But yes, the dust is settling. Although now we've got who Trump's going to put into his team, and that seems to be causing even more consternation on various levels to various people. But the main thing to get about it all is that business is politics in America now.
Yeah,
Now it's always been a bit like that to be the case, but we've never had it taken over to such a high level
yeah,
before, and so, actually, in some respects, those of you listening who are markets people, business people, might see might understand the messaging a bit, or might get what's
yeah.
going on, or it's like a corporate takeover, right? Corporate takeover, new team comes
That's a
in,
good way of looking at it. Yeah,
cutting everything, getting rid of staff, changing the values. Now, corporate takeovers, however, famously difficult to to make work, especially if they're big, because you're dealing with entrenched
yeah.
cultures
I think
and
this
yeah,
is why. I think this is why. What's how we pronounce his name again?
Malay.
Malay. I think this is why he's done very well because like you said, like corporate takeovers and stuff only really work if you go in and really root and stem, pull it out and start again. Because if you kind of try and half-ass it, you still got the old culture, and the old culture is buried in like a tick because they've been there so long. Hence why they're the old
Yeah,
guard, so to speak. So
yeah,
I think what Trump's doing now, and funny enough, it's one of my top of my lists of things to make sure we mention is the administration picks. So this has been
yes,
perfect. Um,
go for it.
so this is like you said, he is going very much kind of people with experience or people with business experience in these positions and whatnot. I know you can argue, might not agree with some people, but there it is. And I think it's kind of quite interesting to know that we berate politicians normally for having no like no work
Yeah,
experience. Like for
in the
instance, like
real
I think
world.
yeah,
Yeah,
the UK business secretary has like done a part-time job in ASDA or something stupid like that. It's like that's it. So again. you know, we'll see. We'll we'll come back in 4 years and see how this is played out. Well, probably 2 years would be enough. But personally, again, no view on Trump or whatever. But I think having a change like this, I think it's needed. And I think the markets should the markets are appreciating it.
Yes, and of
It'll,
course, yeah, yeah.
so again,
And well, there's two things that matter in a corporate takeover, which is it's your team, so it's your expertise and it's your loyalty. Now,
yeah,
of course, that's the other big point of all of Trump's picks. They are people who've shown loyalty, now have had to show
yeah,
loyalty for a long time as well. All right, I mean,
yeah. They
this
played the long
is
game.
yeah, exactly, and that's why you're seeing a lot of people from Florida doing well, because obviously that's sort of Trump's
Ah,
power
yeah.
base. After New Yorkers he turned their back on them, they turned their back on him, however you want to put it. But anyone with a Florida connection, um, now they won't necessarily all last the 4 years, as you suggested there. But in fact, the main one that I think that's most relevant for markets is obviously this new Doge, the Department of Government Efficiency.
Yeah.
Um, and one thing that's important to note there is that in the statement that Trump released saying, Musk and Vivek Ramaswamy are going to run this group, it's an external to government group. So it isn't, it can kind of do what it wants, really.
Yeah, that's it, right? It's
But,
very much that we won't call you official, therefore you can get away with murder.
but yeah, well, but the date he set for it was it will finish its work no later than 4th of July 2026, which will be the 500, no, it's not 500. Oh, 250 anniversary of America's independence. Um,
Oh, that's quite
which
timely.
also, but Trump is the salesman, right? So he's the salesman
Yeah.
CEO. All these other guys have been put in charge of these other departments, like literally departments, like it's a business. And that, of course, as anyone knows who's been involved in corporate life, sounds great to be made, hey, I've got this big job in the front of this department. But it means if it doesn't work, you're gone. And it
Well,
doesn't land on the CEO.
this is it as well. So look at me getting a bit highbrow here. So Milton Friedman, what was
Mm,
it? His quote: "Nothing's more permanent than a temporary government
mm,
measure." Look at
mm,
me, bloody hell,
mhm,
pats myself on the back there. But also what I like about this, giving them like a deadline for the lifetime of the department, is
mm,
pretty much a free trade because if they're doing badly, that's it.
mm,
That's when they're going to cut it off. However, if it's doing really well, like Malay,
mm.
and everyone's going, actually, we got this wrong. I saw Ian Bremner deleted a tweet that he posted when he got when
Oh, did
Malay got
he?
in. Yeah, he got it when he got in.
Mm,
Bremner kind of posted that this is guaranteed means an economic collapse, and someone's done a remind me in 1 year.
mm.
We hit a year, and obviously that tweet's disappeared. Funny that. But
Uh,
one thing I do like about that, so say for instance they do well, and there's
mm,
every chance that this is a good thing that they do, and less bureaucracy, less lines of tax code, the better, and that kind of
mm,
malarkey. And if it does do really well, there's every chance they go, hang on a second, this is really working. Let's push it for another 250 days. But I do
yeah.
think it does give them the free trade if it does, kind of fall on its arse.
Yes. And also, Musk, Trump, egos a go go. I mean, you
Egos a go go.
couldn't get too big of egos, could you? But by putting a time limit on that, that's quite nice for both of them as well, because it's not like,
Gives them
hey,
an
I'm
out. Yeah.
yeah, and of course Musk constitutionally cannot be president of the US. Doesn't want
Well,
to be,
for
doesn't
now.
need to
For
be.
now.
Well, it's quite hard to it's quite hard to change the US Constitution without a supermajority in the Senate. Although they could, yes, I mean they could be changing some of the rules on this kind of thing.
Look, if
Um,
you'd have said to me 10 years, well, 20 years ago that Donald Trump would be president, I'd have been, no, that's impossible.
it
So
was in The Simpsons, so there
oh,
you go.
yeah, that's true. Actually, that's true. Oh we
I know.
better go back through some episodes and see if
I
Musk
know.
becomes president.
Oh God, yeah. Well, probably there's something there, but no. So when you started all of this off by talking about Elon Musk in the UK,
Yes.
I think things have changed for this UK government since the US election result, because business is politics
Yeah.
is now going to drive everything, and it is a revolution of sorts. It may be one that people listening don't like, it may be one that a lot of voters don't like, it might be one that doesn't work, but it's happening. And it where Donald Trump is CEO who does deals all over the world with different countries, you've the UK government starting off like, I'm trying to think of an analogy in the corporate world. Who are some big people who don't get on with each other, corporate wise? Oh, well, loads of them don't, do they? Loads of them don't. But
Narrow it down.
it's yeah, it's if you're out of favour, it's quite hard to get back
This
into
is it.
favour.
If Yeah, it's like you say, ego's a go-go. Yeah, it's very, yeah, it's so kind of volatile. Well, they both are quite volatile, right?
And
They both seem to post and speak before they really kind of count to 10, which I'm very guilty of myself, so I can't really comment. But it does feel like, you wouldn't be surprised if they fell out, if you see what I mean.
yeah, well, it's going to it's more important than that, but even then, because okay, so here switching to the UK for a moment in what has happened
Yeah.
over these last couple of weeks. It's kind of Rachel Reeves did her budget, then we had the US election, and then it kind of it's gone a bit quiet, a bit quieter on the UK side of things, but not really because in since that budget, the move in UK yields means that Rachel Reeves has already lost all the fiscal headroom that she had built in. Um,
Yeah.
Yields are going higher everywhere because of what's happening in the US. So the reflation trade is on.
Yeah.
Most likely that is going to give another. There are going to be tariffs come January 20th
Yeah, I
next
think
year.
that's, yeah.
That's
It's
a given.
the fact that he's still continuing to pump that line after he's won. I think that means it's now long. So there was a few of us. It was like, well, he said it before he gets in. Let's see what he says after he wins. But
No, no,
yeah,
he's very serious about it. He loves them and always has done. And it's also can be done by executive order, so it's very quick to do.
right,
And so you'd think that would trigger at least some reacceleration of inflation, or certainly we're in an environment where there's very little coming out that would appear to say inflation will drop.
right.
Um, so, except perhaps, by the way, if and there's something else we should talk about, whether there is a cessation of hostilities in some regard in Ukraine, that might just about kind of cause a little bit of a
Yeah, although
disinflationary
that
element.
after yesterday's news, that does sound less likely.
Why? What are you thinking? Why? What's your thought
Well, with
there?
storm shadows being used to penetrate deep into Russian territory, and then last overnight we had Russia as part of their wave retaliation back, which we see most nights, which is drones and missiles. They also
Mm,
included some ICBMs,
mm.
which is a bit of an escalation. But again,
No, no,
as
there's no reason it. Well, sorry.
no, go on.
This is politics is often like this, and unfortunately, war is very much like this, which is um, everything has to increase before it decreases. And I know that sounds awful. And of course,
No, you're right. No, you are right.
if you escalate too far, then you just sort of all cross a red line, and it can never come back. But it's a bit like an elastic band, and you
Yeah,
pull it, and then it comes back to the middle, and there is that point where it snaps. Um, so I think that that the yes, in some respects, this escalation is a precursor to the moment. I could still see that leading to some sort of an agreement. Because here's the thing about an agreement. So everyone says, "Oh no one can, no one wants to pacify Putin. Ukraine's president, Zelensky, could never give any land away. Everyone's got a red
yeah,
line. Putin's got nukes. Biden wants to just like go out with on a kind of,
yeah.
oh,
It's
Russia
that's
is
a
Trump is Russia. There
that.
is
To
a
be honest,
real drive on
the
that
the
thought,
Biden
by the
thing's been
way.
quite interesting actually because
Yeah.
obviously since he's kind of given up the ghost, so to speak.
Mm.
No comment, no mention on his age. But it was him that put in this kind of
Yeah,
red line
rule.
about
Yeah.
red line about anti-personnel mines, and said, look, we are definitely not doing that. Also, Ukraine's on the signatory list against anti-personnel mines, and yet as soon as he loses, yeah, go on, how many do you want? It's all a bit, it is a
I
bit
know.
weird.
No, it
But
is.
so I tell you
It's
what, someone made a very interesting comment I saw flashing around on Twitter, refused to call it X,
mm,
last week I believe it was, and they made the argument that because Trump is, let me see if I'm going to butcher what he was trying to say,
mm,
but I'm going to try and repeat it. Basically, it was along the lines of because Trump is so volatile, it actually has a calming impact on geopolitics because third
mm,
party aggressors become worried about what the reaction might be. Whereas Biden's reaction was kind of, you knew what he was going to do, like a lot of talk, not much action, so they could get away with murder, genuinely, literally murder, right?
mm.
But what they're saying is because Trump is so volatile,
Mm.
people, as in like aggressors, are a little bit nervous about what you know, the reaction
Mm.
might be. Therefore, it's more likely to kind of calm them down, which was it's kind of like, it's massively like 8D chess. But I kind of like that line of thinking.
Well, it is. It's the Nixonian madman strategy from the
Oh,
nineteen
hello.
seventies. There you
Oh,
go.
get you.
But here, well, here's the here's what's most relevant about that argument is that until the 20th of January, he's not President Trump. So the third parties have until then to make their case, as it were. So once he's in the mix definitively, that kicks in. So you want to set it up so that when the game of chess really begins, you've got your pieces where you want them.
Yeah.
So now where you might want them is as perhaps that's suggesting a position where you can climb back, walk back down the hill again. Get back down over the bridge. Oh, I did all of this, and now I can only do
Yeah.
this.
Well, funny
But
enough, as you know, you said that about moving chess pieces. So my dear friend and colleague Jamie Dutter just messaged in because he's obviously listening. And he said, but like potentially this escalation, like you said, is like the final kind of move, final like land grab or whatever you want to do before talks start in Jan or Feb.
mm.
And then they can pull back to where they were previously, if you see what I mean. So yeah,
Well, yeah,
which is
there is that. I
which
mean,
kind of what
sorry,
you're saying as well.
there's something to think about here, which Richard often talks about, which is the Treaty of Waitangi, which is New Zealand and is
Oh
actually about.
God,
I know. No, bear with me. I can't
how
remember
many
the
has he had
year.
to drink?
1857, he said. So
Oh
this is a
God,
treaty that was
remember it well.
signed. It was signed in New Zealand. It was to do with Indigenous people, Maori land rights. It's actually still being argued about in the current New Zealand government. Because the point is, it meant different things to different people. It's not clear exactly what it even means. So sometimes people think agreements, and actually even the Good Friday Agreement in Northern Ireland, to some respects, has some of this in it. People think that agreements are, cut and dried, but
Yeah.
they are often fudgy deliberately and necessarily to move to the next stage. So it 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 all depends on what you think it means and what you tell
Yeah.
your people it means,
Yeah.
and what it means for the next stage of the game, which as I mentioned, Treaty of Waitangi from like what's that, almost, well, it's over 150 years ago. Sorry, Ukraine, but that debate could be happening for 150 years there as well. So
Yeah.
I mean, look, land has been uh, the maps of the world have been redrawn many, many, many times over in 150 years. So anyway, I'm putting it out there in the sense of I think some, again, this is actually how business people often look at politics. So remember, business is about what works, politics is about what sells. So
Oh, I like it. I
it's
like it.
about when you're coming at it from a business perspective, you're like, oh well, just give him just give them this region or that region, or yeah, and then we
Yeah.
can all get on with our lives. It doesn't ever really work like that at all. So
I think,
yeah.
like in terms of the impact on markets, I think any signs like that, though, I know, it's like you said, you got to sell it to the public and stuff, but I think any progress in terms of just
Oh yes.
communications between the two on this, I think,
Yeah.
it's just more fire for the risk on trade, right?
Yes.
More
Absolutely.
fuel,
And
sorry, for the risk on
yeah,
trade.
yeah, 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 absolutely it is. And that when I talk about how this has changed everything politically, that also has impact on the UK, because when I talk about uh the rise in gilt yields, there's also a growing discontent in the UK with all the people that have lost out from this budget. Obviously, we've seen the farmers
Yeah.
going on their protest. They'll do more. You've got continued noise from both large retailers and small and hospitality
Yes.
businesses
Yeah.
unhappy. Um, in fact, the one today I saw was outgoing chief executive of John Lewis and Waitrose saying it's a
And Tesco's yesterday, was it?
very
I thought I
unhelpful.
saw.
Yeah. So um, the point to all of that is, remember Rachel Reeves' argument to the markets and was that her public investment was going to lead to private investment. So that's this whole argument of why she needs business on side, why she needs businesses to invest.
Which she
Now,
hasn't.
and she also did her Mansion House speech last week, I think it was. That was a slightly bizarre. list of things that certain interest groups in business would like. So first of all was all the pensions reform stuff, but then there was stuff about on bankers and on banker pay. So some of the it's quite funny really. She said the regulations that were put in place after financial crisis were now having unintended consequences and had gone
Oh
too
God.
far, like on deferral of banker pay and on what was the other one? Oh, the senior manager certification regime. But these all sound like very small, silly things, but they're the kind of things that anyone in the banking industry has been furious about because it meant they couldn't pay themselves so well. The
Yeah,
senior managers regime meant that senior managers were liable to go to prison for mistakes made down the line. And now they're actually now she's consulting on them being removed completely, which is very
yeah,
good for bankers. So it's kind of amazing that the bankers seem to. This is a woman who said in her May's lecture in March of this year that Brown and Blair had underregulated the financial industry such that it created instability that led to the financial crisis. She's now saying rules put in place after the financial crisis should be got rid of. And, there's too much regulation of banks. That is someone who is
scrambling.
desperately,
Yeah,
yes,
scrambling. I think let's call it what it
scrambling,
is. They are. She's absolutely
scrambling.
scram. Well, and
And
also,
yeah,
I'm
yeah.
glad you mentioned Reeves because I've got in front of me on my
Oh,
little notes. I've got
gone.
Reeves. Reeves gotta go. Three question marks. That's literally what I've got on my notes in front of me.
Everyone should have that on their notes today.
Because she's being found out for completely rewriting and rewriting the history of her, well, rewriting her employment history, I should say. Um,
Yeah,
yeah.
absolutely.
I did see someone mention or someone picked up on a comment yesterday. I think the 10 Downing Street was asked about will she still be Chancellor next year? And there was like a non-answer.
Oh,
Um,
brilliant. Love it. That's so, it's like football manager, that, isn't it?
yeah, a
Full confidence in
non-answer
the
is like,
board.
oh no, oh no.
Oh, dear. No, you're right.
um,
Can you paste that up when you get a chance,
what the
Ryan? That,
non-answer?
yeah.
Oh yeah, I will
Not,
have a look
you don't have
for
to do
it.
it just now, but when, yeah,
I
yeah,
was
when you
gonna
get a
say,
sec.
I
No,
feel
no,
like
it's it.
I struggle to listen and talk at the same
No,
time.
I know. No, while you're talking, I'm going to say the reason I'm asking you is because people should take those non-answers extremely
Yeah,
seriously, and that things have become extremely difficult for Rachel Reeves for many reasons, but lost her fiscal headroom, higher rates, higher inflation coming down the line is going to cause problem for all of her forecasts. Not having business on side, that causes a problem for her entire argument. Trump just exacerbates all of that. And personal issues now, as you have said, with her changing her LinkedIn and more evidence emerging that what she said she did in her jobs she didn't really do.
yeah,
And that is particular well, it's damaging on many levels for any politician. It's particularly bad for a chancellor, but it's particularly bad for her because she has often used her CV to claim she knows what she's doing. So she'll
yes,
say, "I was at the Bank of England for the best part of a decade." Well, now it seems she was there for 6 years, one of which she was in the London School of Economics doing a master's. Now, it's not to say that she isn't. This is the thing. What makes you qualified to be chancellor? I mean, I think George Osborne read history. You don't have to have read economics necessarily to be a good chancellor. Whether you think Osborne was or wasn't a good chancellor, but it's of course, if you're going to make that argument and you're in
yeah,
public life, then you better be sure that you've got your facts straight. And I think the most recent leak that's the most concerning is the one where she was signing up to be on, I think, a charity board, and that put her occupation down, and she said economist, but it was when she was doing that job at HBOS where it's now become clear she was kind of in a
T-boy or
customer.
person.
Yeah, she wasn't in. Well, she wasn't an
I
economist
take it
at
back. Sorry, I've just
HBOS.
found the link. It wasn't to say
Okay.
it was sorry. It was refuses to say if she broke ministerial code, not if she would be in the job
Ah,
next year.
no, well, but that is also relevant. A bit weird. I mean, why wouldn't you just, if she hasn't, you just say no, she hasn't. Why would
Well,
you not
yeah,
say?
right. It's still the same point.
So yeah, I mean, look, it's. I don't know if you can get a bet fair market on that. They still haven't
Um,
done the Starmer one, have they,
no,
Ryan? But anyway,
no. I did see something. Oh yeah, but I'll chase them. I'll see if I can pull
but
some strings.
remember that it's important. Look, it's how can I put this? Rachel Reeves owns that budget therefore, if you're Keir Starmer, she has to own everything that goes wrong with it. So, in the
Yes.
weird world of politics, you want her to get absolutely buried in a hole before you get rid of her. And to
Right.
many people,
Oh,
it might seem
yes.
she's already in quite of a hole, but not fully. I mean, this hasn't
Right.
quite.
Is
Although
that
if you're on
because,
Twitter all day, you see the memes, don't you? But the
yeah.
man on the street doesn't really know too
Is
much
that
about the
because
story
if they
yet.
do get rid of her and there's still continued fallout from the budget, you can't blame
Yes.
Reeves anymore. You've got to blame
Yep.
Starmer. So Starmer's like,
Yep.
look, basically, wait for the shit to pile up so high you can no longer see the top of Reeves' head, and then get rid of her. Is that
There you go.
the working man's
That's it.
example?
That's exactly
Perfect.
it.
There
There
we
you go.
go.
There you go.
Simplifying politics.
There you go. And of course, when he does a reshuffle, he can then move David Lammy from Foreign Secretary. So you might as well let him take all the heat on any issues with Trump or
Yeah,
Musk.
right.
So yeah, so there you go. But yeah, it's not. Finally, I know we're in the final throes of our chat. Just two things that are very relevant
Yes. Go, go,
for
go, go.
everyone is France and Germany and the EU generally. France, Le Pen is threatening to bring down the government if she doesn't get some cost of living measures in the budget.
You're not going
Um,
to believe this. That was the other
Go
thing
on.
I've got on my notes. Marine Le Pen warned that her party will vote to bring down the government led by Premier Michael Barnier if its demands to amend the belt tightening draft budget are not met. We're just so on sync.
We are strange.
Love
That's
it.
weird. We should, yeah, not see you or speak to one another for 2 weeks in future.
Yeah.
No. Um, but for everyone in the summer who'd said that French bonds selling off was nonsense because no one would ever do, Le Pen was dead and it was useless and it wasn't going anywhere. I mean, that argument is well and truly buried now.
Yeah.
There should be a higher risk premium in French bonds because she's holding them to ransom, and even if she gives in this time round, or she's always going to be there. So this is
Yeah.
the world in which we're now in, and that is in a country with a higher debt to GDP ratio than the UK. 111%, I think it is in France, whereas
Oof.
it's 100% here. So they've got bigger issues, and then Germany. Well, I think since we last spoke, I can't remember anyway, but they're going to have an election. They're going to have early elections.
Yeah.
Uh,
Also,
Olaf Scholz.
we had news this
Oh,
morning, again from my notes, so this is perfect. German Chamber of Commerce and Industry, the old DIHK, came out this
oh
morning.
yeah. And
Because we've had 20 odd percent or whatever it was, year on year insolvency growth. And said,
ooh,
and the quote is collapsing demand from Germany and abroad, high costs for energy and skilled workers, considerable burdens from taxes and bureaucracy. All of this is putting pressure on business prospects and the financial situation. I'll give you a clue. That's not positive news.
have you got enough memes for that, Ryan? I mean,
No,
that is
exactly.
bad.
I'm gonna have to
That
go.
is bad.
Ian's gonna have to have another photo shoot, I think.
He will. He should. Yeah, it's grim in Germany. It's more even grimmer the fact that they're facing that and they do not really have a functioning government. It's now going into campaign mode. It'll be February next year, the election. But even the election campaign is chaotic.
Yeah.
Scholz, who is currently chancellor, may not even be the candidate for chancellor for the SPD. They
Oof.
are debating whether to switch him out at the last minute. Even if he is, there's no guarantee that he would be involved in any um, negotiations after the election, and negotiations themselves could get quite heated and quite lengthy. So
And the timing
be
is pretty
prepared.
shocking, right? Because obviously
Uh,
you got the tariffs with China on the go when they're desperate for someone to kind of
yeah,
start leading the EU's response to that, and then you've got
yeah,
whatever Trump comes out with in terms of
yeah,
tariffs, and Germany
yeah,
are going to be no captain at the wheel.
correct. So I cannot see in any way that any of this is good for the euro. So
Well,
let's all
yeah,
keep
I'm
an eye
glad
on
you
that.
said that because as we now know, or everyone should know by now, the stock market is not indicative of the underlying economy. Those two
No,
things haven't been the same since the global financial crisis. However, the euro is, and I
yeah,
really do think that the euro could see some further pressure because, unless things start turning around, I know the ECB are kind of reluctant to do bigger cuts, but we no one knows what's going to be like in 6 months, but I my money would be on more cuts and potentially bigger cuts rather than holding like the
yes,
Fed seem to be wanting to do. So there's definitely some policy divergence on the go. Oh, look, I almost
yeah,
sound like I know what I'm
absolutely.
talking about.
Yeah, you do. Yeah, you do. Um, anyway, so there we go. I'll finish there because we're
Perfect.
basically up with
Well,
time. Now, what are you going to ask me for my new questions? You've got to go up with some new questions for me, Ryan.
I'm going to ask. Well, I've got to ask. Positive five, minus five. Thoughts on the UK Labour government. So that one's still going to be resonating.
-5. minus
Oh
5.
God, that is pinned to. We might have to increase the minus side. We might have to add. We might have to go to -15. Right. So
Yeah.
Reeves, is Reeves still going to be here this time next year?
No.
Okay. And I'll come up with some other questions for next week.
Yeah. Yeah, fine, fine.
Perfect.
Good
Well,
stuff.
Helen, thank you as always. Amazing as always. I'm actually going to send you on WhatsApp my notes for today, just so you can see I wasn't messing around because it's
I
been
know
we've
you
been
aren't.
so on sync. It's been perfect. But listeners, thank you as always for listening. And we will see you next week. Thank you very much.
Yeah. See you,
See
bye.
you. Bye.